If you have been in the SEO game, you have seen it all. Keyword stuffing, meta tag optimization, link building, and the rise of content marketing. You have adapted to every algorithm update, embraced topic clusters, and mastered the art of creating comprehensive user-focused content. So when you hear the term Entity SEO, it's natural to wonder, is it just another buzzword? Is it any different from what I'm already doing? The short answer is no. It is not just a buzzword, and yes, it's different, but not in the way you might think. Entity SEO isn't a radical departure from traditional SEO. It's a next logical step to its evolution. It is a refinement of what you already know, tailored to how search engines like Google have evolved to understand and rank content. So in this video, we'll talk about how to optimize your content with the concept of Entity SEO. Let's go. Hey, it's Jack from RankMath, the one SEO plugin that empowers millions of WordPress sites, and this channel is all about helping you grow your search traffic. So if you're new to us, subscribe. So Entity SEO is about optimizing your content for entities, the people, places, things, or concepts that search engines like Google use to understand the world. So instead of just focusing on keywords, Entity SEO focuses on what those keywords represent and how they relate to each other. The key is relationships between entities. For example, if you want search engines to easily understand your content, you've got to implement entity mapping. Entity mapping works like this. Let's say that your topic is how to smoke brisket. The first step is to identify and break down the topic into its core entities. These are nouns like people, places, things, or concepts that are central to the topic. So it could be brisket, which is the main subject, smoker, which is the tool used, wood, which is the material used for smoking, temperature is a critical factor, rub is the concept of applying seasoning, smoke ring is a result of proper smoking, and Texas BBQ is a style of BBQ associated with brisket. Now the next step is to identify the attributes for each entity. Which are the characteristics or properties that describe the noun, such as these describe brisket, these are for the smoker, these are the different types of wood, the correct temperature to cook the brisket, different kinds of seasoning, the attributes of smoke ring, and the attributes of Texas BBQ. Following that, the next step is to map how these entities relate to each other. This is where you define the connections between entities. For example, brisket is cooked using a smoker, smoker uses wood to generate smoke, wood imparts flavor to the brisket, temperature must be maintained at 225 Fahrenheit for the brisket to cook properly, rub is applied to the brisket before smoking, smoke ring forms on the brisket when smoked correctly, and Texas BBQ is a style that often features brisket smoked with post oak wood. And to make the relationship between entities even clearer, we can say that brisket, which is an entity, is cooked using a smoker, which is another entity. Smoker, the entity, uses wood, another entity. Wood, the entity, imparts flavor to brisket. Brisket requires a temperature of 225 Fahrenheit, etc. That's how search engines will understand the relationship between entities. And that's how they learn if you have something new or unique to the topic at hand, or if the content is not comprehensive enough. Hence, writing your content based on the entity map can help boost your search rankings. So this is an example of using entity mapping to write content. When writing about choosing the right wood, the logical entities to focus on will be wood, brisket, and Texas BBQ. And according to the entity map, you've got to include these entity relations. Of course, you should be writing your content naturally before checking the entity map. So in this example, we have connected the entities in the first sentence. You can pause this video and map it out in the entity map and see if we have covered the relationships between the said entities. Following that, the next step is to prepare the brisket. This is our opportunity to focus on the entities brisket and rub. So on the entity map, we should cover brisket seasoned with rub. And we did that on a content that includes the attributes of the rub entity. Next is setting up the smoker. We've got to show the relationship between the smoker and the temperature entity. So on the entity map, it will be this relationship. And in the content, we have addressed that accordingly. That goes for the rest of the content till all the relationships between the entities you have identified are linked together. What we propose is to first write the content naturally without overthinking the entities. Focus on providing value to the reader. After that, check your content against the entity map to ensure that you have covered all key entities and their relationships. And if you have missed any of the entity relationships, you want to optimize for it. So Entity SEO isn't about reinventing the wheel, it's about refining your content to align with how search engines work today. But the question is, creating an entity map takes a lot of time and resources. Is there an easier way? Of course! Now, although it is ideal to brainstorm and create an entity map manually, the reality is that it takes a lot of time. And as content creators, we know that time is already not enough. So as a RankMath user, you can chat with our RankBot, which is a chatbot trained to perform SEO tasks. So on your WordPress dashboard, hover over RankMath SEO and visit the Content AI module. From here, you want to click on the Chat tab. And this is where you can chat with RankBot. There is a series of prompts that will eventually get you to the entity map, and I will walk you through that. So assuming your main topic is how to control temperature in a charcoal smoker, our first prompt will be list the main nouns, people, places, things or concepts that are central to the topic, how to control temperature in a charcoal smoker. And here we go, these are the core entities for the topic. Now the next step is for us to define entity attributes. So we will add another prompt that follows up with the output. Say for each entity, list its key attributes, characteristics or properties. And we are done. Now we have the core entities and their related attributes. The next step is to map the entity relationships. So we will ask RankBot, describe how the entities relate to each other. For example, how does one entity interact with or affect another? Let's give it a while for it to match the relationships between entities. And here we go. Now this is a little tough to consume as a user. So let's ask RankBot, create a visual map showing how the entities connect. Provide an output in the following fashion. And I'll put in my expected output. Let's wait for a couple of seconds. And here we go. We have an entity map as a checklist for your content. What do you think? So as you can see, with a series of prompts, we can easily create an entity map. And do you know you can analyze the entity relationships of your top competitors? If you want to identify the entity map of your competitors and improve upon your content, you can do this. Let's say that we are going to write a content on the same topic, how to control temperature in a charcoal smoker. We can search for the top competitor and visit the page. Let's copy the entire content and visit, for example, ChatGPT. We can type in the prompt such as analyze the following content on the topic how to control temperature in a charcoal smoker and identify key entities and their relationships. Extract the relationships in the following format. For example, if the content mentions that a BBQ smoker contains grill grades, the relationship should be formatted as BBQ smoker contains grill grades. Focus on identifying relationships such as contains, requires, used with, compatible with, improves, enhance, etc. Provide a list of all identified relationships in a specified format. And then we will paste the content from your top competitor. If the content is too long, you can paste it in parts. So I will hit enter or return. And in just a couple of seconds, we will have a list of relationships between different entities. I hope you find this useful, and if it is, do help us out by smashing that thumbs up. One of the Entity SEO's goal is to become part of the knowledge graph. An example of a knowledge graph would be when you search for one.com, you will see a knowledge panel on the right of the screen. Entity SEO aims to help you achieve that. You can use a tool like Diffbot to see how search engines understand your organization and if the information is accurate. When you sign up to the free version of Diffbot, you can utilize its enhanced feature to know what search engines understand about your organization. You can enter the name of your organization. Let's assume that we are optimizing Entity SEO for a clinic called MinMed. Let's enter its URL and let's hit Find Organization. And here we go. These are all the public information about your organization that the search engines will know. If the information is not correct, for example, if you have moved or shifted to another location and it still reflects your old address, you have to optimize your local business schema. The same goes for the other information. Now compare this with the information on RankMath. You see, we have more information like the founders and executives, employee skills and locations, and then key people, technology used, and so many other things. So as you know, the more information search engines have on your organization, the better. And to provide that information to the search engines, you've got to apply the right schema markups. Schema markup is the language of the search engines, and if you are a RankMath user, this can easily be applied without you knowing a single line of code. If you run an organization with a physical address, the first thing you need to do is to go to RankMath's dashboard and toggle the local SEO module on. Thereafter, go to the titles and meta settings and click on the local SEO module. Here's where you can decide if your site should have a person or an organization schema applied, which allows search engines to better understand your site and business. From here, you can add all the details about your business, and when you have selected the organization option, in the business type, the organization schema is applied by default. You can go deeper into selecting a more accurate organization if there is one. The more detailed, the better. As you can see, there are hundreds of schema options available. But if you can't find a suitable schema option, you can always revert back to the default. It is perfectly fine. Now, if you need a tutorial or guide to input the details in the local SEO module, we have created a detailed video to walk you through it. You can check out this video right here. The link is in the description. But anyway, if your organization has social media accounts such as a YouTube channel, a Facebook account, or whatever, you should apply the same as schema to your organization. It is as easy as visiting the social media tab in the titles and meta settings and adding your social media URLs here, such as your Facebook, your X profile, and any additional social profiles you add here will have the same as schema applied. So when you visit your homepage and view its page source, let's copy everything and test the codes on the Google Reach Results testing tool. And you will see that the organization schema is added to your homepage. Let's check it out. You see, all these are the information we have added earlier, and any other social profiles will have the same as schema applied. So this tells search engines that these social profiles relate to your organization. So with our local SEO module, you don't have to worry about adding a single line of code. Everything is seamlessly integrated. And if there are key people in your organization, such as your C-suite executives, and you want them to be understood by the search engines as well, you can create a user profile for each of them and add information such as their social profiles, X and Facebook, as well as other profiles like YouTube, LinkedIn, GitHub. These profiles will have the same as schema applied to them. That creates a relationship between these social accounts and the user profile. Then you want to add their bio that explains the role in your organization. On top of that, you should have descriptions of your C-suite executives or any key people in the organization on one of your pages, like your About Us or Theme page. For example, on Group 1 on the Theme page, you will see its C-suite executives and key people in the organization. And if you click on this, you can read the person's bio. And one more entity SEO optimization you should do to optimize for Knowledge Graph is to create a Wikipedia page for your organization and fill it up with all the entities that relate to your business. Such as if you check out the Wikipedia page for SEMrush, you will see all the information regarding the company together with its history, as well as the merger and acquisitions and all the references. You have got to keep these information up to date. So these are all the things you can do to help search engines understand your organization better. Now, because Entity SEO is all about helping search engines understand the relationships between entities, what better way there is than to add the About and Mention schema. As a RankMath Pro user, when you're writing a piece of article and your site is not as established, you've got to make connections between your content and what search engines already understand. For example, we are writing about how to smoke brisket. The search engines will take some time to understand the relationships between the entities you have on your page. So to make it quicker for them to understand your page, you need to leverage external sources such as Wikipedia. If we go to Google and search for Texas BBQ Wikipedia, there is a dedicated page for it. And search engines already understand what Texas BBQ is about through this page because they are trained with this information. So you want to copy the link of this page and go to your content. You want to make that connection to tell search engines that this page is related to what you know about Texas BBQ. So you want to highlight the relevant text and add that link. Thereafter, you want to click on the link and edit it. Expand the advanced options and you want to set it to About. Now, the difference between the About and Mention schema is that if the content of your page directly relates to the entity you are linking to, you should use the About schema. Like in this case, how to smoke brisket directly relates to Texas BBQ, and that's why we are using the About schema. However, if the entity you are linking to is not directly related to the content of your page, but you are making a secondary reference, then you will use the mentioned schema. Such as if you are linking to an entity that talks about post oak wood, but your page talks about smoking brisket, it is an indirect or secondary relation. In that case, you would use the mentioned schema. I hope it is easy for you to understand. And depending on what your page is about, you should apply the appropriate schema markup. For example, this is a guide on how to smoke brisket. We can go to the Rank Maths tab, select the schema option. By default, an article schema will be applied. For free users, you can only apply one schema type, but for pro users, you can apply as many schema types as logically possible. Let's click on the schema generator, and you can select the right schema type to add. For example, in this case, we can apply the how-to schema. But as you can see, it is recommending us to use the how-to block, which you can find by adding a new block and search for how-to. And here it is. So whatever content that you have written on your page, you want to transfer them into the how-to block so that the schema will be applied. You want to add the information such as the duration it takes and the estimated cost for smoking a brisket, the supplies, tools and materials that are needed to complete the task. And here's where you add the steps. For example, step 1 is choosing the right wood. We will add the title here as well as the description. And it will be best if you add an image that describes this step. Then click on this to add a new step and do the same as the previous step and complete the rest of the information. That's for how-to pages. But if your page is reviewing a SaaS product such as Rank Math, you wouldn't use the how-to schema, but you will go to the schema options, click on the schema generator and select the software schema. Complete the information to the best of your ability and your page will have the appropriate schema applied. So as you can see, there are many predefined schema types for you to choose from. If you are reviewing a physical product as a third party, you will select the product schema. If you are reviewing a movie, you will select the movie schema. If you are writing about a recipe, you will use the recipe schema, and the list goes on. And if you need a walkthrough for each of the schema types, you can check out any of these videos here. I'm pretty sure they'll be helpful. The links to the videos are in the description. So that's how you can optimize your site for Entity SEO. I hope it is easy for you to understand. And if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And don't forget to smash that thumbs up. Our channel is all about helping you grow your search traffic. And if you haven't subscribed to us, consider doing so. This is Jack from Rank Math. I'll see you in the next video.